Hello and welcome to today's RMIT talk. I'm Julia Macon, the Associate Director of Business and Enterprise within the College of Vocational Education here at RMIT. Before we start today's session, I would like to acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and the Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectively acknowledges the ancestors and elders, past and present and emerging. And while we conduct our work remotely, I want to pay my respects to the wider unceded lands of this nation. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Business at RMIT is always advancing and evolving to adapt to a rapidly changing industry. And right now, our program offerings in both vocational and higher education are transforming to meet a growing demand for people with good business, marketing and or finance know-how, an agile approach and a growth mindset. Today, I've invited my colleagues to talk us through how they are teaching these skills through industry-connected coursework, real-world facilities, work-integrated learning opportunities, and more. Importantly, our VE business students are taught by people who have extensive industry experience. And with me today, I have three great examples of this. May I please introduce you to Fida Shada. Fida is a program coordinator in global business and leadership and also involved in development of entrepreneurs and future leaders. I'm also very excited to announce Damien Manassa, who's a teacher in the Business and Enterprise Cluster and an executive coach with over 20 years experience working across the logistics, finance, government, retail, hospitality, sporting and not-for-profit sectors. And then finally, Marina Garbio. Marina also teaches in the Business Enterprise Cluster here at RMIT and also has a side hustle in digital marketing. Really excited to have you all here this evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Before we get started, just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Just to let everyone know who's in the audience that we have 15 to 20 minutes at the end of our panel discussion to go over any questions that you may have. You can submit questions in the QA tool on the right at any time, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible. But if we run out of time, please remember our live chat is currently open and can be joined at any time. Fida, I'd like to come to you first. Before joining us at RMIT, you worked in several areas, including establishing a successful portfolio of restaurants. You also worked in the banking and finance sector and mentored at Small Business Victoria. I imagine you have some great insights into the small business sector. But what I'd like to ask you now is, what are some of the benefits of studying a vocational education business program?
Thanks, Julia. So the small business sector at the moment is a very dynamic and challenging area in terms of there's a lot of skills out there that are requirements that weren't so prevalent a few years ago. Those types of skills are around the innovation and the creative thinking space. What I've found in the small business area is that small businesses need to learn to be very agile and they need to learn to adapt to a lot of change, as you have all seen with the pandemic and the way that small businesses have had to learn to adapt and to adopt different ways of functioning in a very short amount of time. What I see with vocational education is that in vocational education, students are prepared for that particular type of an environment. Because they're across the board with different experiences in different areas, and they're taught to be agile, particularly with the hands-on type of work that they do, with their work-integrated learning projects, with being out in industry, with taking on, doing a diploma and being able to work while they further study. So it's all about the innovation and creativity and solution-based, ways to run.
Thank you so much, Fida. Appreciate your response. Going to move on to you, Damien. You're in the hot seat now.
Thanks, Julia. Pleasure.
You've been a volunteer mentor for Leadership Victoria and also volunteered in Youth at Risk Australia to train corporates to mentor at-risk youth. Can you tell us about this experience and how this helps you design your courses to recognise current and future trends and also meet skills shortages in industry?
Sure, Julia. I think first off, with having mentored in Leadership Victoria and also in my own coaching practice over many years, you really get insights into the problems, and in this day and age, even and more so now, the wicked problems that we call them, such as pandemics, global financial crises, that are impacting businesses, and how leaders have to move away from reacting to try to respond in terms of thinking about the immediate response that they build, and then the effects of that moving medium and longer term into the future. And that informs me in terms of thinking about the macro environment that young people are engaging in. And we talk about vocational education, and it is a vocation to become a leader and a manager, really, at that level, because of the responsibilities. The diversity of issues and the challenges across those industries that you mentioned that I've been involved in, when you're mentoring somebody, you tap into various wisdom too, which you're very fortunate. It's very much a co-constructed learning relationship, which I also translate into my teaching also. I believe with the young people, I'm always learning from them too, in terms of their world. And the diversity of challenges, through logistics industries, government, not-for-profit, all these different challenges that they have in terms of risk management and sustainability. In particular, in terms of youth at risk, my time there as both as the secretary of the not-for-profit organisation and developing corporate's capability to mentor these young kids. We're talking about young kids who were at the extremes of society, who are prostitutes, drug addicts, and they were really struggling to negotiate life. And as we know in this world at the moment, I believe the dominant sort of fear that young people are negotiating, the dominant energy is fear. And so I learned so much about applying my understanding of emotional intelligence with these young people, and just how important that was to integrate the emotional intelligence with the thinking and capabilities that they need to develop too. So I bring that into vocational education in terms of believing that we are emotional beings first and foremost, and that we connect young people's hearts with their heads, and they get a very powerful energy to negotiate complex circumstances in business. So, yeah, that's too sort of, I guess, diverse from the business perspective, and really that empathic understanding of young people.
Actually, I was just going to say that's a really good point, Damien, in terms of really identifying and understanding the whole emotional intelligence piece with young people today, because they are a very different generation to what we were 20, 30 years ago. And just for them to identify and understand that it's okay for them to be emotionally intelligent and to transfer those types of skills into the workforce really speaks in folds.
Yeah, definitely, Fitter. Just really quickly on it. Yeah, okay. I mean, to understand one's emotions, particularly in this time, and how they play to move away from fight and flight reactions, to be able to respond, and as you mentioned, Fitter, earlier, the flexibility and adaptability which leaders and business are looking for. So, yeah.
And I think it highlights the importance that a relationship between a teacher and a student isn't one way, that there is that co-learning that happens. And I just wanted to ask you, Damien, before I move on to Marina, what's the one thing you've learnt the most from your students? Is there one example you could give us?
What I've learned is, if I can sort of just say, it's going to sound strange, but to relax into the learning relationship. And what I mean by that is that I'm always anxious that they're okay, and how we interact, and I'm always checking in with them. But they always say to me, "Damo, it's okay. We're there." So I'm learning from them that sort of, I guess it's that youthful exuberance too. Even though they have those challenges, it's great. Sometimes it helps me to get out of my head when I'm thinking. So I'm really learning that from them. amongst other things. But yeah, it stands out for me.
Thank you, Damien. Moving on to you, Marina. You come to us with more than 8 years experience teaching at RMIT, and you can continue to work with clients through your own digital and social media marketing strategy business. What I'd like to know is, how does your experience help graduates be prepared for the real world of work when they graduate?
So I've been teaching and working in industry for eight years. And what I really love about this whole process is the fact that the theory that I teach the students, I can actually help them apply it with people at work. So that helps with the work integrated learning projects that we do. So when we get a business in to do the work integrated learning, we we can apply the theory and get the best out of it.
Thank you, Marina. I think that's so important, particularly in today's day and age, tapping onto what both Feida and Damien have said, that the importance of that relevance and it is so important to be able to apply it. It's no longer about what you read, it's how you absolutely apply it. What I'd like to ask, and I'll start with you, Feida, is how has COVID changed your industry? How have you adapted as a person, and how has your teaching adapted? And also, I know you're involved in business as well. How has that adapted too?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I do have a finance broking business as well. So basically, we've had to go online with that, which is fine, because we're dealing with customers via Zoom, and everyone else understands what online is about. So we're slowly getting used to the online platforms. In terms of my teaching, my courses have all gone online, and look, I won't lie, it was a real struggle at the beginning of the pandemic, because students were unsure of what was going on, how we were going to manage, the course, how we were going to manage the teaching platforms. But as we've gone along, we've become a little bit more innovative. We've, like Damien said, we check in with the students all the time. I get my students to co-create with me as well, to say, okay, well, what's going to work for you? How would you like the class to be taught today? And then they, we work as a team. So for me, the pandemic has provided many opportunities for my students to get online and to really embrace the online platform. And because I teach entrepreneurs, they've realized that they do need to be agile. They do need to start to figure out, if one thing is not working, then perhaps I need to put in a plan to keep going and do something different, but to continue with my entrepreneurial journey. So for me, the pandemic has kind of created some opportunities as well along the way.
Thank you, Feida. And I think that's important. And this evening is a good example of that, of how you can still foster a connection and collaboration without actually being physically together on a stage, as we would love to. So, Damien, I'll ask you the same question. How has COVID disruption changed your industry? How has it evolved your teaching? How has your business adapted?
Yeah, so Julie, I've kept on board a number of coaching clients, and actually it's really it's been fine in terms of using this medium. Of course, it's always great to, if you can, have that face-to-face interaction, but it really has. It's really actually in recent times being able to draw, and this is the thing too, I think the connection between business and how we interact with our kids. I have brought a lot of the way I coach actually, and the methodologies I use in coaching, I've brought that into the classroom. And when we say we do these check-ins in coaching, you use a lot of Likert scales, with people, on a scale of 1 to 10, these sorts of things, checking in. And you also push back responsibility. And what that means is I say to my coaching clients that they can manage themselves. I'm there just to enhance and support their good performance. And that's what I say to my students. They're young adults. I'm not there to manage them. I'm there to support and get the best performance out of them that I can. And how that does translate then is this real coaching practice I share with what I've brought into this online scenario, which is now since March of last year. I share with them the values that I actually I see that work in high performance sustainable teams. And right from the get-go, we set up a team. Like, my guys are part of Team Manasseh, I call them. So even though they're DB5G or whatever, they are part of Team Manasseh, and we have a vision as a team of all helping each other be successful, because I think that we're talking about business and they have to work in teams. So we set that up, and we set up our 4 values that I see in high performance teams. If I'm working in a sporting club or whatever, that's trust and respect, valuing others' contribution, and understanding others' contributions. And that works really, really well. That's really made me utilise those coaching, I guess, skills even more so in this online forum. And last of all, it has been handy to be a bit of a nutter and an entertainer. I've released a lot of music, albums of music, so we have a bit of fun with music. And I think it's having fun too. You've got to have fun. As I say, these kids, you can be quite anxious in this world and that sort of thing, so we have a lot of fun. And so it's a combination of those things. But my business, it's fine, and it supports, and I bring those stories into. I just bought one in recently. We're just doing risk management. I don't know how long I can go for, but just quickly. Well, a restaurateur, I guess a celebrity chef, was going to invest 1.2 million overseas in a partnership. I took this person through a process, and we established that it wasn't really a wise way to go, and we used the risk management process that we use with the students, and they could see that it really is valuable. So those real life stories.
I think you've tapped into a really great thing. So I interrupt you there, but I think sometimes the online does allow you to be a little bit more flexible and have a little bit more fun, because with my interactions as well, like I know I've had my cat jump up while I've been in the point of a busy meeting and all those things, and I think it's made us more resilient, but also emotional intelligence, I think, is higher now because we're aware, and in many respects has been those positivities. I was mortified in my example, but everyone laughed it off, and it kind of became an unintentional icebreaker that we can be more human. We don't have to be on all the time.
No, we are human. We are human. We have faults. We have flaws, and because I know some things with these kids, I don't know everything. And I think it's being vulnerable, And this is where being ego strong, not egocentric, care for self and other, but your real focus is on other, and helping them to develop in life. So be it.
Marina, I'd like to ask you the same question. Being in digital marketing, how has COVID disruption changed your industry? How has your business adapted? And how has your teaching adapted as well?
So I'll start with marketing in general, because what I actually do is I actually teach marketing at RMIT, as well as deal with it with my clients outside. And what I have found is that digital marketing has really thrived in COVID, because all of a sudden people who were reluctant to go online, to shop online, or to have a shop online now needed to. So our industry has just exploded to the point where we are desperate for more copywriters, for more people who understand websites and marketing and emails all in general. So from what I really love is that a lot of my meetings outside of teaching is online. So because the students are doing the Zoom calls and the online work, by the time they get to work for employers, they will be so confident, and probably a lot more confident than people who have been out in the workforce that have never really dealt with this before. So for me, that's really exciting, and especially with digital marketing as well. And what I love is, while I'm teaching, I also get them to have a look on Google for marketing examples based on, how it can be quite persuasive, or how what's going on, and especially in the current environment with COVID, there's lots of great examples about that.
I totally agree with you, Marina. Being digital marketing as well myself, that our industry's gone from, it was sort of, marketing was the in thing, then it became a bit of a dirty word, and now marketing again is it's not a must do and a must have, and it's starting to get that respect again. And I think it's also empowered businesses because and staffed that being digital isn't scary, because we've had to, partly forced upon us, but it's no longer a scary thing.
And what I also find as well is that a lot of employees are looking for people to do their marketing that have had experience. And what I love about teaching what I teach is that we bring in clients that the students can work on. So students already have a portfolio before they've even finished the course. And like, we've worked with big people like Zagamis and Devondale, and we just finished off doing Santuro's, who personally is my favourite hot chocolate place. So so it was really good to have that experience that they can then go out and work for other people confidently as well.
Yeah, and that's great. And also Diploma Business, going to make a plug for the Grand Prix organisation. It's my favourite. I know they're working Grand Prix this semester. So to get that variety is amazing. So thank you. Before we go to the questions, I want to ask each of you, and I'll start again with Fida. What's the best piece of advice you could offer a student in year 11 or 12 regarding, for those who might be interested in business, accounting or marketing?
Have a go. Pick something that you think you will like. I would highly suggest trying a vocational education course, because you can always transition into a higher ed course if you really wanted to. But what a VE course will do is it'll give you a taste of what that industry is like. And like Marina and Damien were suggesting before, we do a lot of the will projects in terms of, we get you out there, we get you with clients, we get you really doing the actual work and building your reputation, building a portfolio. So then if you do like it, you continue on. If you don't like it, hey, it doesn't matter. You can continue and do something else. I've had 3 careers over my life, and I'm all the better for it. So just continue. University is a continuous evolvement of who you are as a person. It helps you grow as a person, helps you learn about the world as well. So my advice to you is just see what you would like to do and just give it a go.
If I could interject here with what Fida was saying, I totally agree with that. And like, my piece of advice is, whatever you choose, it's going to be right, okay, because it's going to be right at the time.
That's right.
So just to give you an example, I've been in marketing for over 25 years now, and the very first course I did when I was left high school was professional writing and editing, and this is way back before the internet was even invented. But that course is now the foundation for all the copywriting that I do, all the marketing, salesy stuff that we need to do to get our marketing out there. So no matter what you do, it will be right. So
I think that's such a valid point about transferable skills, because we tend to be so focused on time. We have to finish by this date or do that, and you don't realise you're building up skills along the way, which I know, Damien, as a coach, would be something that you would understand very well and live and breathe, because you have to learn as well to be an effective coach. So what piece of advice do you have for a student in year 11 or 12?
Firstly, I concur both with Fida and Marina in terms of whatever decision you make, be it marketing or whatever, in terms of it, to get an understanding. We say follow your passion, and you may not understand your passion in year 11 or 12. You may not, but if you start on a pathway, I think the VE pathway, it has wonderful opportunities in it. I think of the Diploma of Business, for example. The taste, looking at some aspects of marketing, risk management. We look at emotional intelligence. We look at also risk and sustainability. We look at all these things, and it gives you great insight, I think, into the foundations of business. And this is the thing that, as a young person, you have a pathway. And again, we're mentioning these great partnerships. We have had been fortunate enough to work with an organisation in Timor-Leste, producing garments in that country that was providing employment for local poor people. And these kids got to put together a marketing plan for them, and that is wonderful. We did one for the Children's Cancer Foundation, working with them. And such wonderful opportunities to not only learn about business, but again to see the human side in different countries and the different challenges in a not-for-profit. And these kids really learning about Timor-Leste, for example. So my advice is to, whatever you choose, if it has an element related to business, fantastic, because in your life, as I say to my students is that we live our life in chapters, and there's two elements to your life really that a lot of them are sort of working in small jobs to get some money in. And I tell them, even if you hate it, that's fine, because it's helping you to make a living. But then working and studying in this diploma or whatever is helping you to create a life. So I tell them, piece of advice, be aware that you'll have two fundamental roles: making a living through just getting money in, but you're learning and engaging in this pathway will help you to create a life of learning and engaging in society in a meaningful way.
Thank you, Damien. I think that's sound advice. There's still principles and processes that I follow, even back to my days of being a front-end supervisor, studying that at university. So I think it still does apply. And that's what we'll do now is, Marina, there's a specific question for you, which I'll ask on behalf of the student. The question is in relation to how important are social media tools such as Instagram and LinkedIn in getting your name out there?
Oh, definitely. So that is an absolute must. And one thing I do teach to my students is that if you're wanting to, I'm actually finding a lot of students are coming through the course actually wanting to start their own businesses, not in 10 years' time, but actually now. And so one of the things I do recommend is to start it up now. Even if you're not really sure what you're going to do, you're building up your audience, you're building up the rapport with your audience. So when you're ready to showcase something or to sell, you've already got the audience there. You're not going behind the eight ball to try and find people. With my students in class as well, I always get them to create a LinkedIn profile within class, and usually about 80% of the students do not have a LinkedIn profile by the time they're being taught with me, and they are so shocked about the opportunities out there because of the connections that they can make.
Thank you, Marina. There's another question that I'll answer, then open to the panel in the last 2 minutes. The question is, why should I choose to study business at RMIT as opposed to competitors? And I would say to the student, to everyone in this audience, is that we care. We're passionate educators, and we care, and we adapt, and we work with you to have the best possible experience that you can. And you can see that in Marina and Fida and Damien here. They're just three examples of the teachers we have within the business and enterprise cluster that will go above and beyond to see our students succeed. And that's what drives us. We want to see our students succeed. So that's our passion, that's our enthusiasm. And I strongly believe, and my wife, being in the education industry, is that it changes lives. Education has the power to empower people. So I'll open up to Fida to answer as well.
So on your point of we care, we actually have dedicated people that take care of students. We don't use the word at risk. We have a special dedicated people that take care of students that are struggling, and to make sure that they go through the course with as much ease as possible. We are there for the students. I know everyone says that, but the pastoral care that we take that really, really seriously. And like I said, we have dedicated people that will take these students on and really work with them to get them over the line. So yes, we really do care.
And to add to that, I think also, especially with what I teach with marketing, especially if I find a student that actually wants to, create their own business, I will ensure that within the curriculum that we're teaching, that there are aspects that they can actually connect with right now and apply right now. So it's not just about following the order of the curriculum. It's about finding out what the students want and need, and also showcasing and teaching them the skills to do something that they enjoy and to move forward. Yeah.
Thank you. Damien, there's a question here, which I think is most relevant to you. A student is asking, what gives you an edge when looking at applications? Does volunteering count? I presume if we talk about from a business perspective as an executive coach, what would you advise a student to consider as part of their studies in order to get the job that they want at the end of the day?
Okay, yeah, great question. When I've interviewed and employed a lot of people in my previous life, I was in the airline industry, general manager for an airline, and you might have heard of American Airlines for the southern part of Australia, and then worked for another company where I employed a lot of people in a couple of states, and when I interviewed people, they might come in with a CV that looks really great. There's a lot of academic qualities on there, but also look at the person themselves and how they present themselves. Not so much, looking fantastic, but just how they engage. And when we talk about performance, we talk about a person. You can go to any institution and get some knowledge, right? And we talk about performance, and the application of knowledge in your role is the skill. But the huge one for me is your attitude. And I'm a big believer in helping young people to understand the attitude that will carry them through life, an attitude of openness and learning. And that, to me, as a coach, is one of the greatest things you can develop in yourself, an attitude of openness to new things, to difference and valuing difference. And so this is where emotional intelligence, what actually brought me into RMIT was that because I've been assessing and teaching emotional intelligence for the same amount of time for a lot of years, I love how this institution not only has it in the curriculum and business, but we actually do some stuff for teachers. We have emotional intelligence sessions where we all learn about it. And it's fantastic. We share with each other. There is Marina and Fitter. I've dedicated my life to helping others be successful, and I love seeing other people be successful. And so as a young person, I would say to you life will throw a lot of challenges at you, but you can catch them by being open, by endeavouring to understand difference, okay? Fear comes from ignorance, so learning about others, and always know that we develop ourselves through the quality of our relationships, and that's again what I love of how we operate here with Julia, our associate director, our relationships that we have, and I don't use the term team master and those sorts of things lightly. We talk about teams, we talk about it in business, so let's bring it to life. What does it mean to be a team? We have a vision. We're not a group of individuals. We support each other. We acknowledge. I'm terrible at administration skills, right? And technology, and Julian would know it. But my other side of things is people and all that sort of stuff. So we've got your back. We'll have your back. If you're into wanting to give it a good crack and be the best you can be, we're there for you. No problem.
Thank you, Damien.
So can I just add to that in terms of what Damien was talking about in job interviews and that type of thing? I think when you come and you do the projects that are involved in the courses, in the diplomas, in the certificates, the work integrated learning, what that actually does is give you confidence. So it gives a student enough confidence, because with knowledge comes confidence. So when you go out to a job interview, yes, you've got the credentials, but you will ooze confidence because you've already done the work. You know what you are doing. You've had the hands-on experience with it. To the question of should you volunteer, well, you know what? It's as much exposure to an industry that you can get is fantastic. It adds meat to your resume. It also adds I suppose it adds some clout to your personality as well, that you're prepared to do whatever it takes. And I think employers, myself as an employer, I used to employ many, many people. It's that person that is differentiated from everyone else in the sense that, yes, they're prepared to, do what it takes and to work as a team and step outside that square.
And that also ties in with the corporate social responsibility, that it isn't just about yourselves, it's also about the community. And volunteering, whether it is to, because I know a lot of community houses are always asking for marketers to help them because they simply don't have the budget, and it's a perfect way to get that ground experience that larger companies look at and go, they're doing the right thing, and let's give them a go. And I've heard of people that have been picked at the post because they have had the volunteer experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry, I didn't include that, but definitely volunteer. Definitely.
Yes.
No, because it really shows, and Marina and Fit of nailing it in terms of businesses for so long going back in the day would isolate themselves and think they weren't part of the social fabric, whereas they are servants to the social fabric. Okay, they don't operate exclusively from it, and volunteering just actually does show that real social commitment and that corporate social responsibility that Marina said. So very much volunteer. I mean, I've volunteered so much, and I'm actually doing a fair bit of pro bono coaching at the moment. And I've noticed, and what I'm loving is that a number of single parents who want to get back in the workforce have taken up the offer, which I'm really excited about, and supporting their efforts. So do it, guys, do it.
There's a question here, which is a interesting question. Have any of you ever regretted your choice or changed what you wanted to do? I'll start. When I went to university, I thought I was wanting to do event management because I believed that I was going to be drinking cocktails and hanging out with celebrities. I realized during my work experience after my first year of study that no, that was not the case. It would be moving trolleys and boxes around before you got to got to any of that point. I also realized I didn't like early mornings and late nights, which is something event management is. But by doing that work experience very early on with my degree, I realised what I did like, and I love being around people, and I love being creative and using data. So for me, I naturally fell into marketing and have been involved in the marketing industry as well as the education industry side by side. For me, I've adapted and evolved and grown, but I don't regret any of the decisions I made because I wouldn't be where I am today. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned came from one of the, those days and you're like, oh no, why did I make this choice? But that's made me who I am, and I wouldn't be the person that I am in the role that I am today if I didn't have that experience. So I'd like to open it up to the panel about whether any of you have regretted your choice or changed what you wanted to do. I'll start with Marina.
Yeah, I'll give you another example where I was working, and I'm happy, I was working at Clark Rubber. So this is way back when, and I was also doing my master's. So I was working and doing uni at the same time. And this is going back 15 years ago where, internet had just come out. Facebook was, just a baby back then. And back then I was saying to the directors, Clarky the platypus, because we had a mascot, should have its own Facebook page. People love it. It could have its own personality, etc., etc. And I remember to that day, the response was, Facebook isn't going to be around for long. It's not going to be around. We'll keep doing TV. We'll keep doing radio. And for me, that was the time when I pivoted and went, well, I need to change, because I can see with my knowledge from the education and my experience at work, I can see that Facebook is going to be huge, and look at it today. So I'm so glad that I stepped out of the role and into digital and social media management, and now I'm considered the expert because I've had all that time and all those years. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll jump in. So I've had a very, very long, well, Damien and I are probably around the same age.
40.
But,
40,
25, mate.
30.
Anyway,
40.
so over my life, I've had three major types of careers. Well, the first one was in hospitality, and I really did a lot of work in hospitality, setting up and running over 12 cafes and restaurants and selling them. Do I regret any of this? No. It was hard work. It was really, really hard work. But it makes you the person who you are at the time. The decisions you make at that time are the decisions that follow you to the next part of your journey. That's life. And so then I went into banking, studied a degree in finance, went into banking. Then I thought, okay, I've had enough of that. So then I decided to go into teaching. Like I said, I don't believe in regrets. I believe in learning through your journey, and every piece of learning you take makes you all the wiser, or makes you the person who you are as you are going through that journey. And yes, made a lot of mistakes, and yes, fell over a lot of times, but you know how they say, it's not how you fall, it's how you pick yourself up, and you just continue and study. I'm still studying. So I've been studying for nearly 10, 15 years, and I absolutely love it. So it's just that continuous growth and continuous learning, because we never stop learning about ourselves.
I also think as well, and this is something to consider, is that the jobs that are around today may not be around in 10 years' time.
Yeah, that's right.
Copywriting, web design didn't even exist 10 years ago, whereas now every second person is one. So don't think about what jobs there are now. Think about where, like with what Damien was saying, with the passion. What is your passion? Because regardless of what happens, you will follow that into the path that you will love. Yeah. And I think I'm testament to that as well, because I teach and I'm still got my clients, and I would not have it any other way. I wouldn't have all of one or the other. I love both.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Marina. Like I think probably the only regret I have now, I really want to think deeply about it, is barracking for Carlton. Sorry, a bit of a joke there. No, love Carlton. We'll keep on going. No, in terms of significant major life moments that actually brought me to being a coach, I look back, there was one decision. Here's the thing, guys, that I do say. There's no such thing in your life as a bad decision. Just have a look at the quality of information you gather to make that decision, and take the time to get quality information to make decisions. When I look back, two things that led me to right now where I am now was that when I was with the airline, I was earmarked, and I remember the conference room talk in Sydney where I was earmarked to go and head up the airline and live in China. And my wife was expecting her first child, and she didn't want to raise our child living in China. So I made a decision to leave the airline, and I went to a company that was run by a high-profile Melburnian and the board, and it was an absolute tyrant. I worked for an absolute tyrant who I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And so when I was only a young general, I was in my 30s, and this experience I had staff in New South Wales and Victoria. After being there for 2 years, there was 3 general managers prior to me, to show you how bad it was within 18 months. After 2 years, I closed down the operations in New South Wales. And all the board and that wanted me to do was just do it over the phone and get rid of all these people. But this is where your values come in your life. I would not do that. I flew up there. I took our accountant with me, and I remember distinctly, I was talking about it the other day, in that boardroom, I got all those people, I used my network to get them jobs, even though I had a managing director screaming down the phone what I'd done. The accountant resigned the next day. He was so stressed out. Unfortunately, lovely person, come into the Rialto building there. Gordon, and I then looked at my life and literally woke up one morning, and instead of about 2 or 3 in the morning, and instead of, I always get ideas for songs, I'm a songwriter too, but I woke up and said, I want to be a coach. That's what, my whole life, I sort of was doing different things, and it was good. But it was that moment when I realised what I loved doing. I loved helping people. There was all the other stuff, the finance. There's wonderful people like Marina and Fitter, marketing. I wanted to help people in that way. And American Airlines was very big on mentoring and leadership development. So I went back to study, and I studied, to become a coach, and was one of the first going way back in 1999 earlier. So I could have regretted those moves, because I did actually. That was it. I went to that job with that tyrant for the money, when all of my instincts were telling me, "Don't do it, Damien." I didn't listen to my heart, and my head destroyed me. But I got through, and my learning was very quickly. I don't know how much time we've got, but there's a great book, guys, I recommend to you called "The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People" by a person called Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
He made me read that book. I'd never heard of it, but he actually never read it, this guy. It was only his psychologist wife who read it, but it got me through, because all of my relationships, everyone I have in business and here at RMIT, I aim for win-win. Nobody loses. If you want to build sustainable relationships in life, look at the learning. Don't blame others. I don't blame that person. He was what he was, and it gave me this wonderful opportunity to coach and to work in what I believe is a wonderful institution that is RMIT University. No regrets, just learning.
Actually, you're spot on with the win-win, and that's what we really aim at, is the win-win for the students, and we learn from our students as well. So it is a two-way street.
Yes. I really agree. I just wanted to mention, I think resilience is sometimes misunderstood. Just you don't have to stay in something because you think you have to. Sometimes making the change and making the switch shows more resilience, because you're listening to your values, you're listening to your heart, and you're making the choice that's right for you. Yes, sometimes some people may not understand it, but they will, because your happiness, if you're happy, then that has an overlasting and long-lasting effect on other people in more ways than you can ever imagine. I know, and we've all probably have experienced that, what it can feel like when you wake up, it gets to Sunday night and you don't want to go to your job the next day because of all the things, but when you find that job or that profession or that career that allows you to wake up and feel inspired every day, that's a brilliant gift that you should really embrace. Mindful of time, we just have one last question, which I think would be really good to sort of end on. A person has asked, how do you get over a fear of failure?
Wow. Embrace it.
There's no such thing as failure. Failure is feedback. Failure is, okay, it didn't quite go my way, so how am I going? What are the opportunities out of this? So it's always looking at opportunities. For me, there's no such thing as failure. It's didn't quite happen. Here's the feedback. I move forward from that.
I think I totally agree with Frida as well, because it is it's like the darkest before dawn. So if you feel the failure, then you know you're about to have a breakthrough of something. And so, it's to be embraced so you can shoot forward, we've all been there.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Look, and failure, there's an incredible amount of people who I've worked with who think that they're failures and are failing. But the thing is that if you want to check in, it comes back to, when we talk about failure, it's an outcome. It's an outcome of maybe effort.
That's right.
Success is an outcome of effort. It's just an outcome. The key thing is you critically reflect. You just say, okay, I have failed. 3 questions you can ask yourself. Did I fail because I wasn't quite sure? I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the second one. I didn't have the skill to apply that knowledge. I didn't know how to do it. Or what was my attitude like when I was doing it? And checking in on those 3 points and say, yeah, okay, maybe I didn't know. Or maybe my information. And again, failure is just an outcome of effort. And that's why you'll see in high-performance teams, in AFL teams that we've worked with, I don't know if you guys know Luke Beveridge. He's a wonderful coach because he rewards effort. Forget about the outcome. Effort. Give your effort. If you say, even in my students, give me the best you can, that's all you can do. If you've tried your best and you fail, good. If you think, I've given 50%, okay, 50% effort, what might that get me? You are the leader of your action. Okay, the outcome, let it be, let it be. You're the leader of your actions. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to all attendees this evening. We hope we've answered your questions and we hope we've answered in a way that, you can see that we're genuine, we are passionate, we do care, which is the real RMIT in vocational education point of difference. So I'd like to thank our panelists, Marina, Theda and Damien, and also those behind the scenes who are making sure that this is running effectively. If you have any more questions, please send them through to the live chat link on the Open Day Live website. And don't forget to check out the other talk events that are happening throughout this month. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care. All the very best. I don't know, do we leave?
God, is it off?